Went all over the world practically, but especially the U.S. and had quite a background in sales in the marine industry, from what I understand. So she said she started helping people find second homes in that beautiful yacht, but then decided that she really wanted to do real property where there's dirt involved. So she became involved as a realtor. She started the Kathy O Group, and for those of you that live in Charlotte County, you probably have heard of Kathy O. Well, this is Kathy O. And she started that business in 2013. In 2018 and 2020, she was the past president of the Inglewood Board of Realtors. And that's a lot of responsibility. And then with Women's Council of Realtors, she's a 2021 president. So she's just a past president there and still very involved, I'm sure. So we're delighted to have her. And then we have a very interesting family that is going to be a part of this part of our program. And what I find so interesting is when it's on work, life, and balance, what do you talk about at your Thanksgiving dinner? It would be nice to know how they balance all of this. So I would like the STAR team to come up, all four of you. And I don't know a lot of detail about production and all of that, but I do know that Tom, I believe, is the one shaking hands right now. Tom, did you start this business, your business, the STAR team, you and your wife?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
No, well, who did? Did Rob start it?
Nope.
Oh, you started it, and you're Elise?
That's an interesting story because my background has nothing to do with real estate.
Well, I know, because your background and my husband's background are a little bit similar. This gentleman right here is a U.S. Navy qualified submarine veteran and one of the first ballistic missile nuclear submarines, and he was on the SSBN 602, well, I read that wrong, the Abraham Lincoln. And my husband was on the SSBN 657, Francis Scott Key, nuclear reactor operator. So,
And they expect us to be normal.
yes, yes. So I was delighted when I read that in his bio. Now Elise is, then you were the one that started the real estate for your family. All right. And all I saw on this bio was that you have served on so many committees and given back so much to the real estate business. And are you currently serving on the grievance committee, which must be interesting? All right. And she also teaches and is involved with Pathways to Professionalism in the association in Royal Palm Coast. All right. And then we have Rob. Now, Rob, you are a U.S. Army Ranger. Retired or just finished?
Sort of. I'm kind of active at the moment, but I'll be retiring in October. So.
All right. And so there's a little bit of military that's been involved in this family, and we thank you all for your service there. That's terrific. Well, he said that he grew up in Fort Myers and explored all of that area, so he knows the Fort Myers area backwards and forwards. Is that accurate?
I like to think so.
Very good. All right, you became a realtor in 2016?
That's correct.
Okay, and joined this whole team.
Sure did.
And then this is your wife, Olivia?
This is my wife, Olivia.
Wonderful. And you're from Montgomery, Alabama, went to Auburn.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And had a life dream of traveling throughout the U.S. With a choir as an alto lead.
Yeah, I was section leader for a nationally renowned choir in the United States, and really just never found a place that I loved as much as Fort Myers. And so after college, I moved to Fort Myers and filled that dream.
That's fantastic.
And met this handsome man.
And then you really found your dream there too, so all right.
That's part of what we do at Thanksgiving. She sings.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, I wanted to tell you a little bit of the personal side rather than production and statistics, because I think that when we're talking about life balance and how do you put it all together, we have quite a panel up here, and I'm going to turn it over to Sherry Smith, and she will continue with the moderation of the panel.
Welcome up.
Hey,
Am I on?
Are you?
Can you give that to that? Am I on?
Can you hear me? Oh, there you guys can hear me. Trust me, I never have to ask that twice.
So thank you guys all for coming. I'm super excited to be able to talk about, I know real estate lends itself into creating teams and Common It's Family. So I'm excited because my team was myself, my 2 sons, and my son's girlfriend. So, you know, we are kind of replicating that, and I know what we go through, so I'm hoping that we can commiserate a little bit. So talk to me a little bit. We'll start there and come this way. Oh, actually, we'll start with you. You have the mic. That's perfect. Mike, we'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about what your team looked like with your family, how you defined the roles, kind of, you know, the fun stuff.
So I owe the team to my kids because we were in an office together, and my son was the director of operations for another team. A young woman came and joined the office. She was in a training class that I was teaching, and he stuck his head in and made a comment, as children might do to their fathers. And I turned around and I said, "Oh, that's my son." And she perked up and said, "Oh, you have a son." So she is now my daughter-in-law. They came to me and said, "We think we need to really form a team." So we got together, along with my former wife, who I ran a real estate brokerage company with for 18 years while we were married. And so, yeah, it's a little challenging once in a while. And our topics of conversation around Thanksgiving are different. But they came to me, we started the team, we grew the team up to 9 people. We had a director of operations, a director of marketing, we created all kinds of layers, and that did not work. So we pared the team back, and now it is myself as the Chief Inspiration Officer, my son, my daughter-in-law, who really are the rock stars of the team, my former wife, and a full-time admin who keeps us on track and takes care of all the things so that we don't get into a conflict. We're on track to close about $50 million this year. And my newest granddaughter, who is 3 months old, has been to, let's see, so she's 10 weeks old, and she's been to 10 closings in 10 weeks. So, she is a realtor. Yes, that's a class. Yeah. So there's some good and bad working with the team. It does make it a challenge that because of the relationships, because of the interactions. Having a daughter-in-law on the team, it means that I can't always have the same kind of conversation. So sometimes it has to get filtered through my son, and that doesn't always get delivered the right way. And then having a former wife on the team is always fascinating because people in the office still think we're married. And her husband is not really enamored with that. So our dinner table conversations are really different. People think it's really fascinating when I'm talking to him because I'm like 5'7", he's 6'4". So it looks really different. And we don't always see eye to eye, but one of the things we do is we have respect for each other. We're okay with having tough conversations. I think we've learned, that we've grown over time, that, we have to have real clarity around expectations. We have to know whose role is what, and I know that my job is just keep everybody's head in the game, keep them moving forward, and let everybody play their part, and be there to support each other. We don't have the only really clearly defined role is our admin. She knows her job, and it's a good thing she knows her job because it keeps all of us, on focus.
As does every good admin, right? Yep.
Absolutely.
The true boss of the team. Go ahead, pass it down.
Good afternoon, everyone. My story is quite different. When I started the Kathy O Group in 2013, I'll never forget, as long as I live, someone said, why do you call it the Kathy O Group? There's only you and an admin. That's true. And it's because I had the vision that I had made a decision I was going to go big or go home. So I'm sure that a lot of people made fun of me because I called it the Kathy O Group, but it was the Kathy O Group. There were 2 of us. So then I got to the point where I'd grown my business in volume alongside my amazing assistant that worked for me for almost 8 years. She could finish sentences for me. That's how closely we worked together. And decided that we needed to hire or bring on a buyer's agent because I really couldn't I could not keep up with my business. There just wasn't enough of me. Do you understand? I've said me a couple of different times. So I made every big mistake that you can make if and when you all are thinking about starting a team. I hired fast and I fired slow. And it needs to be the exact opposite. Okay? But I was desperate. I hired under desperation. And when you do that, you make the biggest mistake of all, because it doesn't just hurt you as the business owner, it hurts that person that you brought on board for all the wrong reasons. So I've learned, I've made a lot of mistakes in the hiring process. And so I invested in hiring a professional coach in December of last year. And I am completely revamping how I do things as a business owner. Because the mistake that I continued to make was in hiring wrong, incorrectly, was that I was creating more and more work for myself. I'll give you an example. I think I finished up with 36 million last year.
Wow.
Of the 36 million, 31 million of that was my production. That's not the way a team should be. I should have just stayed with me and hired 3 more admins, okay? So, fast forwarding, last July, my niece, which I'm from Kansas, she has 3 daughters, husband, they moved their entire family to Inglewood, Florida. She got her real estate license. She's a rock star, and she's helping change the Kathy O Group. I see things with different glasses, through marketing, branding. I threw everything away and I'm starting fresh, and it's been a very wonderful experience.
That's great.
What do you want to know?
I know what it's like to work with your family. You look like, we've heard the former wife, we've heard her family, bless her. I want to know what's going on in your world. No, so maybe you should just continue to pass the mic. Mom says pass the mic. Always do what Mom says.
At the risk of getting in trouble at my age, when there was a time when thoughts came in my brain and I filtered them, now it's, what the hell, throw it out, see what happens.
Okay, so were you telling me no to him or no to him? Which one?
I wouldn't tell no to anybody. I'm smart.
Don't say no to Tom.
I'm gonna risk something here because it just came to my heart. We all have a story, and I'm gonna tell you my story. I didn't go to the bathroom inside until 7th grade. I went to one-room schoolhouse, this is no lie, 8 grades in one room. I was poor, and I can outpour anybody. Now, I know you all have your story, and I can tell you that this lady, when raising her son, went sometimes without eating, so that big boy could grow. And I adopted him at 19 because he never knew his daddy. So what I'm telling you is I'm standing up here in about $8,000 worth of threads and a $25,000 watch. And I'm not bragging about that. I'm telling you that y'all can do that if you set your mind to it.
Amen.
Elise and I are both without spouses. We married, and she convinced me to come into the real estate business. And I want to tell you something, folks. I didn't know a darn thing about real estate. My background is insurance and finance. We were celebrating about 7 years ago the first combined sale of, I think it was $129,000 condo. And we set our mind to make this business grow. Last year, she had just under 100 closings of a little over 60 million. She did, because the 2 young people weren't in the business, and I just keep her in her lane. That's my job. They don't call her Big Red for nothing. So that's how we kind of started our business, and we built it from there. And we brought Robert, you'll hear from him, but he came into the business early on, did some Rangers fun, and now he's coming, back with us, and we're gonna grow it further. And I wasn't being predacious when we dressed like this intentionally, because you're all sitting out there saying, well, you know, they got a lot of money, I'll tell you, it's earned. It's a work thing. Get up every day, go to work, make it happen. Dream dreams, have a plan. Y'all have a dream? How many have a dream in here? How many have a plan to reach that dream? Those that don't, the dream's gonna become a nightmare.
Well, getting back to what's it like to work with family? It's chaotic. It's really tough when your son is much smarter than you are. That's kind of hard to swallow. It's really been embracing to do the things that I've done for almost 40 years in this business. And to watch him come back into the business with so much technology, so much knowledge of the market, that I couldn't wrap my brain around it. So one thing that I said that I was going to mention today is, if you're on a team, whether it's a mother, son, father, daughter, team members, respect is the most important thing. And the hardest thing to do is to get away from the parent-child. You have to be adult to adult. And Olivia is the one, like you said, the daughter-in-law. I don't filter much through Robert. I go to her, she's like me. She says what she says. We were talking about some things in the hotel room when we went to Montana, and I started mothering Robert. And she turned to me and she goes, "You're doing it again." I mean, she doesn't hesitate, but you have to be a team and work together and respect each other. It doesn't mean you have to like them all the time or even love them, but you have to respect that team member, whether it's a family member or not. And if you can't respect them, move on.
So I'm just going to speak very briefly because I'm a brand new baby agent, to be perfectly honest with you guys. I just love it here, and this is the perfect opportunity to jump in on a business. And I love people at my core. I heard someone earlier mention client care consultant. I'm going to brand myself as that because I do have my license, but at the end of the day, I'm good at details and I'm good with people. I'm hero support. And you know, being married to someone who's part of a government agency, I'm used to being hero support. What I really think, going back to the question to anchor ourselves here, you ask how we assign roles, how we kind of designate who does what. What I really think it comes down to is knowing your strengths and being humble enough to know when you need to outsource something. My husband is a numbers man. He literally will get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, have an idea, and go research it for hours. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go sleep on the couch. Because he's up and down. But that's who he is at his core. Me, I'm calling clients, hey, how are you doing? I was a bartender in a previous life, and so I just like to hear from people. And I think people appreciate that. That's my lane. Elise is the wheels on this bus. She is a go, 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 go. I don't know what she's taking. I have no idea. And Tom is our engine. Tom is our rock. He is our foundation. He is the one, frankly, to tell us to shut up talking about business when we're around the Thanksgiving table. Seriously. I mean, he will yell at us from down at the boat. He's like, I hear you, stop it.
The 3 B's.
The 3 B's.
The 3 B's.
Business, BS, and, well, you can figure out the third.
Business, I'll say it, I don't care. Business, BS, and bitching.
Yeah.
Like I said.
When you get on the boat, you can't do that.
You don't do that around the table. You don't do it on vacation in Montana. And you certainly don't do it at Thanksgiving. And so that's kind of the way that we have aligned ourselves. And you know, it's also subject to change. We would like them to phase out so that A, we can do more and make more money, and B, so that they can have a life. They deserve it. And you know, it's about being flexible, as was mentioned prior. So
Good job.
He's a numbers guy.
I think they hit it all.
You agree with what they said, right? I like it, that's great. So do you take a specific role for like just listings or buyers, or do you just kind of work both? You being a numbers guy, you know, does that personality kind of relate to one customer or another?
Yes, it definitely relates to particular people, which is why I think having a team is very viable, because then you can hit different personality types when you're interacting with clients or buyers or sellers, whatever you want to call them. Obviously, she's a little more happy-go-lucky than I am, so when it comes to meeting with somebody who wants to skip the BS and just talk about, is it an investment? Is it you know, what's the market doing? What is the value of this property in this particular location in this zip code? Is it projected to go up, down, left, right? Who knows? That's kind of where I would come in and start talking to them. So.
Good.
Play your strengths, know your weaknesses, like she said.
What about you guys? How did you divvy up? Are you just still with your niece? You know, are you guys still figuring out the roles?
No, we're pretty clear. We weren't in the beginning, and that was my fault also. There needed to be clarity, and I can tell you through coaching, it has really helped. It's one of the best investments I've made. She shadowed me for about 6 months. And I've always done all the listing, buyer's agents, worked with buyers. Except if the buyer wouldn't work with someone else besides me. I do no advertising outside of, I don't buy leads. My volume is generated through referrals, past customers, in a short period of time. So you learn, you know, now I'm learning how to hand off that A-plus customer. I learned the hard way.
Yeah, right.
Don't hand them off unless it's okay with the buyer.
You're right. No, 100%. Yep.
So now my niece, Brooke, is going on listing appointments. And she's batting 1,000. She is. And I'm very proud of her, because one day she will be at the helm of this wonderful ship, if you will. Oversized motor yacht, how's that? But we're on our way. We have a transaction coordinator, an admin, and we have our first slow to hire, never gonna fire, buyer's agent coming on board August 1.
Great. So we've already talked a lot about the family, the roles, kind of where you were. If you were giving one piece of advice to any of our agents that's thinking about getting into business with their family, even with a partner, what would be your first piece of advice to them?
So family and partner are different, because yet at the same time, once you partner up, you're creating a marriage, because you're working together, you rely on each other. So deciding to work with family brings some fantasies along with it, of what you think that's going to look like and how it's going to come together and how wonderful and peaceful it's going to be, and you're building a family legacy. And I think the most important thing, whether it's a partner or a family, is to really have clarity around what your common vision is. What does everybody see together? Where do you see yourselves going? How can you establish clarity around the roles? And strengths was mentioned quite a bit. And we actually, when we were working on our team and structuring it, we used DISC profiles, we used strengths finders, we used assessments to understand independently, not what we thought our strengths and weaknesses were, but what did the analysis show, so that we knew what we were really good at and where we should not be what sandbox we shouldn't be playing in. If you're familiar with the DISC profile, I'm a high I, high D. So I love people and I'm a driver, but I have no S and no C, which means I don't love compliance, I don't like all the structure, like zero. Zero. So for me to do compliance was certainly a non-starter. So, but really understanding your strengths, understanding your weaknesses, and understanding how your strengths and weaknesses impact others and how they see you, because how we see ourselves doesn't matter. It's how other people see us, how we present ourselves to them. So getting real clear on that, have an agreement. We have an agreement. Family team, doesn't matter. We have an agreement. And it describes how we work together, and it also describes what happens if it comes apart. You have to have an agreement up front, because I'm living evidence that not all marriages work. And when you're in a partnership, that also is the case. And I've seen partnerships come apart as a coach, and they're ugly. So putting those things together properly, documenting it, having clarity, and having a way to get out, having an exit strategy, that matters.
Everything he just said, I agree with 100%. And if you're contemplating starting a team, if you do, make sure you hire the people in this order: admin, transaction coordinator. Get that foundation really built and strong with policies and procedures in place before you start adding agents. That's my advice there. And then once you do that, be really clear in your mind and in your heart that you got to get out of your own way.
My piece of advice would be, regardless of how experienced you are or inexperienced you are, don't be afraid to plan and rehearse. I can tell you, I worked with some of the most incredible people I've ever met in my entire life. Some people who had 20, 30 years experience doing some pretty intense stuff, and every single time, even if it was just practicing to practice, we would go rehearse. I mean, full, all out rehearse, not just go through the motions. So don't be afraid to do that, and don't go through the motions. Make sure you're really putting your heart and soul into it, and then it will show in the long run.
Yeah, you don't want to practice when it counts. I have two pieces of advice. Like I told you guys, I'm a newbie agent, so you guys would be able to give me advice, but I can give you partnership advice. First thing I would say is to hire coachable and be coachable. I have not always been the most coachable. I'm being coached by my husband. I'm sure you guys can, make your own assumptions about how that goes. And I like to think I'm pretty smart, but the truth of the matter is Rob's way the hell smarter than me. He is. It's nauseating. And so it is. And the reason I say be coachable also is because sometimes we find ourselves butting heads with Elise because we're like, please do this technological thing, please. And it's just not necessarily where she wants to go. But if she trusts us enough to, be at the helm one day, then, she's just got to kind of go a little bit. The other thing, just as far as partnerships go, Rob and I are learning very quickly. We need space. We need time away from each other. He was an Army Ranger. We started our relationship long distance, and he was gone for weeks at a time doing training, like, yeah, okay, bye. I had my own life going on. Now we live together, and we work together, and we eat together, and we watch movies together, and sometimes it's okay to just, I'm going in the other room. You need your own space, and we're working through the kinks of that, to be honest, and we're sort of dealing with the same thing with my in-laws. They want to have lunch with us on a not star team lunch, and we're going, we don't really trust you to not talk business, so no thanks. Right, and this will be, we've scheduled Thursday is going to be a day off, whatever it may be, and then they're like, want to go to lunch?
No.
Can't take it personally.
But exactly, and they are, I think, really Elise, because Tom's just Tom. You get what you get with Tom, but Elise is learning to be able to be okay with that and draw that designation. So
Well, they've said it all. I'm going to turn it to Tom because I'm sure he's got some really good words of wisdom.
I'm shocked. We've only been married going on 8 years, and honest to God, the first night I had to find the battery somewhere in the body. And finally, I found the battery. She'd go to sleep, and she's still like that. Her nickname, I nicknamed her Big Red, and that's not because she's big. It's just because she's a tall redhead. Advice. I'll tell you what. I am so impressed. I'm a big Cubby fan. How many have studied? I didn't use the word read. The seven habits of effectiveness.
Right here.
Highly effective. Get it, study it. I get the biggest kick out of our business because, like I said, mine was completely different. I was a trainer for a large insurance company, and I sit around and ask, oh, y'all, what you do? You know, what do you do? And I hear all kinds of things. Oh, well, I'm a contract person, I'm an advisor. But what do you really do? You help people buy or sell their house, right? So that, I'm sorry to tell you folks, that makes you a salesperson. And then when I think about salespeople, from an advice perspective, what's the most important aspect you can have? Communication. And in the Covey Effectiveness book, they talk about communication is you don't just inherit it, you have to learn it, and there's ways of understanding and communicating. And you'll be a good salesperson when you learn to communicate. So my only piece of advice is, well, two pieces. One, this is a work thing. All work is a process. You have a good sales plan. Decide you're going to be somewhere somehow, and you can measure it. And if you don't have that in writing, it will become a nightmare. And get the book and study it. Don't read the sucker. And especially if you want to jump around, go to communications first and then come back and go to the other. That would be my advice. And God bless you all. If I were starting this business earlier, I would be a gazillionaire because this is a wonderful, wonderful business. You are professionals. It is your trade. Study your trade. Be all that you can be. Be a real student of the business.
Okay, our last question to sum it up. You guys are working together as families. We know with real estate, we don't have pension plans, 401ks provided to by someone else, What are you guys doing to build your wealth? I know all of you have some wealth building experience and you're very proficient and experts at it. So what are you doing for you and your family to build your wealth?
So when I saw this question, I had a lot to write about this. And being an academic, I said, I better create an outline. And then you better edit the outline to make sure you know what you're saying. And then highlight the outline on your iPad so you don't miss anything. But the first thing, just yesterday, using my wife's real estate IRA, we closed on a lot right up here in Port Charlotte. And our plan is to acquire some lots, buy land, and we're going to start building some houses because there's a deficit in the market. And some of those will be for sale and some we're going to keep and put them into the rental portfolio. And so there's an opportunity because in our business, when we see opportunities, we should take them. And we know that real estate is one of the great ways to acquire wealth. My kids have done a really great job at this, and they've got 5 Airbnbs. They just bought one in Panama City because they're willing to look outside of the areas where they're, to get out of their comfort zone. They're looking at areas where there's opportunity. So real estate is certainly one of the great places to build wealth, but the first thing you have to do is ask, how do you define wealth? Okay. And wealth is defined differently because there are people who can get on their plane, they can go anywhere, any place, anytime, and they can acquire anything that they would like. And, some of us call that wealthy. Yet, I would suggest that maybe the definition that I've learned from Gary Keller is that a wealthy individual is the person that has enough passive income that funds their life such that they can live their passion, that they can do the other things that are important to them. so that they are not obligated to get up every day to work to earn the income necessary to go do those things. So that's wealth. And wealth can be, and that's different for everybody, because we all have a different passion. We all have something different that's important to us. So there is a worksheet that that was handed out, that's on your table, that says Life Purpose Worksheet. And my phone number and my email address were cut off when it was printed. I guess email is not always a great way to send this stuff. But the information is here. You can find me on LinkedIn if you want to communicate with me, and be happy to discuss it with you more. Yet, take some time to look at that worksheet to figure out what are the top 3 things. What is your purpose? And then identify what does it take to fund my purpose. Then you'll know what wealth looks like for you personally. And that's, I think, the starting point is, what does it look like so you know what you have to accomplish to fund the life that is wealthy for you. And, you know, we know that money is good, right? Because money is good for the good that money can do. Money itself is not bad. So understanding it, understanding how money works, investing it, and, you know, by definition, investing is not risky, because by definition, when you're investing, you're researching, you're understanding, you're making good decisions about where you're putting your money, whether it's into a REIT, it's into a mutual fund, you're buying stock, crypto for some people, you know, and or whether you're going to buy and own rental property, right? Understanding how money works means when you do that, it's investing is not risky. If you take out a dart and you throw it at something and then decide, yeah, that's the definition of risk, right? Because you don't know what your outcome is going to be. Once you've done that, then just keep working toward that, apply that, help it grow, and over time understand what you think, whatever you think you're going to need when you retire, double it.
I'm going to break it down a little more simply if I can, just because my world is a little bit smaller, okay? I told you I have one agent right now, which is my niece, and a new one is coming on, buyer's agent, on buyer's specialist on August 1st. My splits are 50-50, okay? So if I make a sale and my commission is $10,000, my bookkeeper writes me a check for $5,000. Okay? The other 30% of that $10,000 goes in my operating account, and I allocate that towards taxes. The other 20% goes in my operating account, and that goes towards overhead. Okay? That's my rules. It's my business. It's my car. They're my rules. Okay? Those are my rules. I don't deviate from that ever. At the end of the year, after I pay my taxes quarterly deposits. At the end of the year, if I have 6 months of overhead expenses in my account, that's what stays in my operating account. The rest I'll pull out and invest in real estate. Okay? So since that September mark of 2013, I have 4 rental properties, of which 3 are paid for, 1 is not. And I live in a very nice home on the south end of Minnesota Key, and my mortgage balance on that house is $150,000. Okay? So that's how I run my business, my small business, but it's a good business.
Most of you probably have a lot more experience with finances than me, as I'm 26 years old. So for me, wealth building is listen to the people that clearly know what they're talking about. Seek out help from people that know what they're talking about. Financial advisors, things like that. I can talk about real estate, but I can't talk about finances. I don't know, so I just listen to what they say, and that's basically it. And so far, it seems to be working.
Yeah, we're paying big kid taxes now, and we're not a fan. Also, just to reiterate that, we say, it looks like there's wristbands that say stay in your 20%. That sounds like our equivalent of stay in your lane, so I think that's.
I think one of the things that we lightly touched on, I've had in my past life experience of not paying taxes, and it was my ex-husband. And when you get your paycheck, or your cut, or your commission, however you want to put it, you make sure that you pay your taxes. If I'm going to let him do the wealth building, but you're not going to be building wealth if you're hit by the IRS at $100 or $200 a day until you pay that balance out. And that is the most frightening thing I've ever experienced. This was 20 years ago. So if I can give you any advice about wealth building, is pay your taxes. You will complain. It will be horrible because we have to pay the amount of taxes. But the only way you're going to build wealth is by making sure you pay taxes, then go on with what they're doing.
Before you complain about taxes, realize that there's a lot of people in the world that aren't even allowed to ride a bike. They have to cover their face. There's a lot of things that you're very, very blessed to have. So be grateful that you can have a home and things like that.
Well, I'm a realist. What I'd like you to do is draw a line on anywhere. It just doesn't have to be very long. And
Maybe not on the tablecloth.
no, not on the table.
Not just anywhere.
And I want you to write the number 7, 8 to the right or to the left. And below that, somewhere on the line, I want you to write the number that you really want to be totally free of working.
Are you talking age?
Whatever, 58, 52, 60, 65. And then make a third one your present age. So I'm just a realist. You know what the 7, 8 is? That's 12/21 of next year. That's how old I'm going to be. That's your death day. And your birthday. Now, I'm a realist. The difference between that period is the only times you've got to combine it. And I will tell you, from the time I was 18 to the time I'm now, I went like a bat. So you better be very realistic about planning for your financial wealth in the future, and you better start now, and you better not hesitate. Now, I hate to pay the government. I don't know about all y'all. First thing I do is I look for any tax deferrals I can get. But that's my only advice. Just realize that life is finite, and y'all better get on with it.
Very good. Any last parting words for the panel? We kind of went over the questions. Any last things you have to say that you would like to share, advice that you would like to give new seasoned agents?
I don't remember who it was this morning had said that every day they get up in the mirror and they look in the mirror. I think it was you, Nancy, that they look in the mirror and they talk about, kind of do some self-talk, and it kind of motivated you to get up and get on with your day. And when my niece and I and assistant and transaction coordinator were putting together our mission and our values and our commitment to customer service and to this industry, do that. It'll change the way you think about your life and what you do for a living. And the one thing in all of that, instead of looking in the mirror and having that self-talk, every day when I get up, I say to myself, who am I going to help today? Because I don't know. Leave you with that.
So there was a comment made earlier about time. They don't have enough time. And if you look at the wristbands that are on the table, right, it says stay in your 20%. Well, that's a reference to working on your big rocks. Your big rocks are the most important things you have to take care of every day. So focus on getting those done. So time block for those, and when you time block, the first place to start is time block your vacation.
Amen.
Make sure you know when you are going to take time off. Block your vacation, block long weekends, block important dates. Block things that you need to be aware of. Block time to be in places like this. plan your year based on a 10-month year, not a 12-month year. It allows you to do these things and then say, I don't have time. People who don't block their vacation are the ones who don't think they're entitled to them. And when you don't block it, you'll never take it. Put it on the calendar, plan for it, set aside the money, make sure that you do that. Make sure you take care of family. Business comes last, right? You know, stay spiritually connected, stay connected to your family, and business has to come last. But I would say, most importantly, is have fun. We have an amazing opportunity in this business to help people, and we say it sounds trite, with the most important investment they're ever going to make in their lives, but we are helping people buy a house and they create a home. They build a family. They do those things that are really important in that space. And we have an opportunity to do that. And we get paid a lot of money for doing it when we do it well. Learn the basics, stick to the foundational activities, then get creative. And one that I've heard quite often is build a database, but your database is not just a collection of information that goes into a computer. Think of it as your community. It's your friends, it's your family, it's all the people you know that you connect with. And find out everything you can about this community. Capture it. Then communicate with those people in the community the way they would want to be communicated with, the way you would want to be communicated with if you were a member of their community. Build a relationship. And then enjoy what we do. And take time off. 24/7 realtors, there's no excuse for that. We can do our business in less time. So make sure that you're taking time for yourself, because if not, then you're going to struggle with that and you'll burn out. 80-hour weeks, they're not worth it at the end of the day.
Very good, yeah. Well, thank you guys. Give them a round. Thank you. Go ahead. Oh, do you need this?
I do. Thank you all so very much. This was really, really valuable. Thank you. Give them a big hand.